got a great session coming up from Daniel Thorpe at Spotler. And I know he's had a huge number of challenges over the last couple of years because Spotler have got a load of money and went acquiring ESPs left, right, and center. And Daniel was the man that was left with holding the bag and being told, okay, sort all this out. So it's not always easy to convince somebody that's up there on the front lines actually doing stuff to come out and share their experiences with you. So I'm really, really grateful. Someone like Daniel who's been going through some tremendous challenges and managed to overcome those. So I can't be more grateful for Daniel agreeing to come on. I know he doesn't speak very often. So please, a big warm round of applause for Daniel Thorpe.
Hey everyone, nice to see you all, and some familiar faces. So basically I'm going to just take you pretty much through a journey and a bit of a story about Spotler and what we do and how we basically have done it with the assistance of Postmastery. So, quick agenda, who we are. We're going to give you a migration story from an acquisition of ours, customer migration story separately, then what we've done for centralizing deliverability, why we use Postmastery, and then if there's time and any questions. Who are Spotler? So first off, quick history lesson. So I've been with the company now for about 19 years. We originally were Communicator. We were acquired by Spotler. I don't even know when, I've kind of forgotten. We became Spotler UK. And then Spotler Group effectively are now a collection of multiple ESPs, multiple other products, not just ESPs. We do SMS and CRMs and stuff like that. And it just keeps on growing and growing and growing. So this is pretty much the mess of what it looks like at the moment. There's more than ESPs here. We've got CRM, we've got SMS, we've got website stuff, we've got shopping cart companies and all kinds of bits and pieces. They are the ESPs though, so that's pretty much the focus of the conversation today. And obviously 7 there is still, too many. So this is what we're kind of doing as of kind of 2024. We're looking to pretty much have 3 products within Spotler. We're going to have the kind of like the core Mail Plus product. We've got Mail Pro for the enterprise solutions, and then Send Pro, Mail Pro, sorry, formerly WebPower brand. And then Send Pro is for transactional only, which is pretty much the that's for Flow Mailer, that was, so it's going to be Send Pro. The names underneath pretty much indicate from the previous slide, the 7 ESPs are kind of moving into those 3, so where clients are moving around. This is kind of how many volume of email we do. Pretty high now, but there's certainly some much more massive players out there. But we had a really good 2021, and pretty much stable since then. So first thing to cover for migration is an infrastructure migration. So we acquired Spotler Group. Acquired Pure 360 back in 2021, and when we acquired them, they were in the middle of a migration from one infrastructure to another. Into AWS infrastructure. They use PowerMTA, so this was about that migration. They, one MTA server, or 2 to 1, same email volume, of course. Changed the IPs going on, shared pools, and clearly some dedicated clients. This was the original timeline. They predicted, they'd already been doing it when we acquired them for maybe up to 6 months, and we found out that their timeline was about 2 years, which at the time we acquired them, we thought was ridiculous. And we needed to do something about that. And the best way to do something about that, we thought, was to get Postmastery involved. And that's where the relationship began. So we contacted Postmastery. We spoke to them about the migration we wanted to do. And did it with them, with their consultancy. And then that's how it pretty much came out at. And these are the exact dates, actually, pretty much. We started the conversation in roughly January. We spent around a month doing planning, talking, prep, things like that. And then we began the actual migration on the 28th of Feb, and we had finished by the 22nd of May. Now, that migration actually could have been far more aggressive, but we had a deadline in Pure to effectively turn off the old infrastructure, saving the costs. And it was end of May, so we just went to the end of May target. We could have done it a lot quicker. I don't expect you to basically notice all the detail on this slide, or many coming up, to be honest, but this is just some rough numbers we did. So week by week, we were pretty much siphoning off invisibly from the clients email volume from the old infrastructure to the new infrastructure. And that's pretty much the progression of that. This, of course, uses some speed control, various stages to it, increasing the volume and per day, the rate per minute, and the outbound connections, based on who you're delivering to, of course. Note here that warm-up macros are obviously really important for migrations. You need to look at your data, you need to know what you're doing, because clearly you need to warm up that volume. So this here is just a random, I think it's a random weak sample from some data, and the highlight here is things like identifying with your data what you're warming up, because we've got things like Outlook.com there, goes to the Outlook 3, but Office 365 is not mentioned anywhere on the domain level because it's obviously tons and tons and tons of subdomains, but the total volume is absolutely massive. So you need to really pay attention to your data when you're doing warm-up stuff. Pretty much we use 3 warm-up macros, basically big mailbox providers, and then all the Office 365 domains, data-specific providers, and then pretty much a catch-all for everything else. Some lovely PAM-J config. So yeah, this is not expecting you to read the detail here, but it's pretty much saying like we siphoned off volume per day from the old infrastructure, delivered it to the new infrastructure, and then everything else just filtered back through the old. And we just kept increasing the numbers every single day. So how we did it, the kickoff data collection call with Postmastery. We added all of our IPs and domains into the Postmastery tooling. Some screenshots of that stuff coming up. Pre-mitigation of the IPs with the big providers out there. We did have to improve the PAM-J config quite a lot on pure, well, in my opinion, because it was weird. And it helped by making it something I could understand. We prepared the warm-up tailoring per dedicated pool or shared pool or dedicated IP. We then tested it all and started. And then from there, it was daily monitoring with the tooling from Postmastery, contacting Postmaster providers, where needed, or adjusting config where needed. And other than dedicated clients, the best thing about the migration was there was absolutely no customer involvement at all. They didn't even notice we were doing it, except for a couple of them may have had like a return path IP that we told them. So whilst this was going on, we also decided that basically 7 ESPs in the group is too many, so we're going to go down to the 3 from the 2024 plan I showed you. So back to that. So whilst we completed the Pure 360 migration from one infrastructure to another, we also decided, let's close down Pure 360 and move them into the other products we've got. So this is now a customer migration where we are pretty much having to now completely deal with them. So we've got clients having to use a new product, so they've got to learn a new tool. They have to have warm-up advice from their sending behavior and patterns. They have to have sending domain talks with particular note to the Yahoo Google compliance. Thank you, guys. So yeah, MTA config and obviously loads of monitoring for it. Warm-up advice, table numbers. We have to educate them how fast to send based on their volumes. There's another way of looking at it. Basically, it's the same thing. That's kind of just a template that was. This here is the Postmastery tooling. Now, apologies, I use Postmastery exclusively in dark mode, and dark on white slides wasn't the best, but you can have it in white mode if you prefer. But I just like the dark look. So yeah, this is just an actual example of a migration warm-up at the time. It wasn't complete. It just took a slice there from March. You can see pretty much really, really low moving up. And as a bigger number gets doubled, it keeps going and going and going. This here was just for them for Google. You can pretty much see, standard stuff. This isn't rocket science, basically. This is pretty much what most people would know about, but you have to pay a lot of attention to these things. Just if you increase slowly and carefully, it's better. A motto in the world is usually if you don't ask, you don't get, or it's better ask for forgiveness than permission. That's definitely not the case with deliverability. You don't ask for forgiveness, you just don't cause it in the first place. Monitoring, obviously, here from the tooling, domain breakdown for the clients. Clearly, you're looking for green-looking data like that. Low bounces, low deferral, low average, and in this case, the traps have recently been added to the tooling to make sure people are being good. You can see this. So we were monitoring this for not just client migrations, but everything we do. There's loads of reputation monitoring you can get from it as well, which is really helpful. And clearly, I took the best screenshot I could. Loads of green here. We've never seen the red color at all, obviously. So how are we doing customer migration? It's just a kickoff call, of course. Warm-up advice, domain advice, data advice. All the obvious things like don't be a spammer. Send to people who want email and all this. A campaign plan with volume control, pre-mitigation of the IP if needed, and then MTA config if needed. They start, we use the tooling, adjust the plan if needed. So obviously all this is going on, and we're thinking as the group, we need to centralize deliverability because 7 ESPs with 7 deliverability teams, not that it ever really was the case, but it doesn't really make sense. It's too much for kind of what we're doing, especially as we're moving down to 3. So now what we do is, we have a new customer or migrating customer questionnaire. We do internal policy documents, of course, things ticketing, no-brainers here, feedback loop stuff, postmaster reporting, the alerts, standardize the MTA rollout and config, trends in the data, and things we want to look at in the future are more towards the like kind of our own cloud, as it were, like from other conversations today, where we're looking to potentially have one infrastructure cloud where we have the ability to use all of our IPs on all of it, but just completely separate per the product, but have the flexibility that everything can access everything. And of course, Spotler Group love acquiring. Real straightforward example of some vetting questions. We check people like what their rough email volumes and frequencies are, biggest spike sending they do and how frequent, what domains they use somewhere else, all things to try and gauge what they're doing and anything we need to pay attention to help them with their delivery. Policy documents, we've got new domain setup standards, follows the sort of Morg advice. Warm-up guide, subscription data standards, re-engagement standards, stuff like that. A completely pointless screenshot about ticketing. Of course, we have ticketing. Shout out to Evold, hi Evold over there, for basically being in the team with me to deal with all of our customer issues. Feedback loops, thanks Validity for this as well. Now it's become paid. We moved all of our subscriptions into one account with paid for there. We're also looking to do the U6 stuff for the CFBL, I think. Some other postmastery options here. You've got the email auditor, where you can just check some results about the emails, authentication, quality of content, things like that, links and stuff. Another thing you can do with that tooling is DMARC reports. It's just an example shot from the web power side of things. Alerts. We love alerts. You can get alerts from IP listings, sender score, SS and DS data, and some bounce rates. Clearly, I invented the IP listing alert. We've never seen one of those before in our lives. But no, really helpful emails that come through, basically, that allow us to react on it. And because all of our data that's now fed into the postmastery tooling, it's just really helped us provide the service to the entire group. Group config, you'll recognize this maybe as paramTA style. So one of the things I've always really valued about events like this is talking to competitors. And when you're locked into seeing your own data, that's all you know. You don't know about anyone else's. So you don't necessarily understand like what other problems people have or things like that. So one of the things I loved is the fact that because Spotler Group is now a collection of ESPs, I effectively had access, what would have been accessing 7, well, ours plus 6 competitors worth of data to see things. We actually now have all 7 in-house. So it allows us to create a set of config areas where we can go, yeah, if we make this decision in one, it's valid for everyone. There's no point in it being a secret knowledge to that one ESP anymore. It's now valid for all of our 7, which will be 3. So I created the group config stuff here that any of those sort of topic areas, you can see from the file names, are shared between it. We find something somewhere and it goes everywhere. Here's a real rough example of that. We saw this bounce recently. That's the other category. And very clearly you can read that and go, yep, I can make a ruling about that and recategorize it. Now, as one ESP's worth of data, you might have never seen that because it might not be relevant, might not come up. But we can make that, and that's a safe decision to make everywhere. So we can now make that config roll out to everyone in the group, basically. Trends. again, because we've got all of our data sets in the Postmastery tooling, we can access them all really, really easy, and then we can see trends in the data really, really easy. For example, this was an inherited config, but there was, in this case, one of the ESPs in the group, they had a block on that domain as a manual discard. No idea why, no one did. Previous guy who did it had gone, but we saw elsewhere in the group it being delivered to absolutely fine. So went and removed the block, and sure enough, didn't even need to be there. But the point basically being, because we were access all different sets of data, we can tell these things quite well. Also, very important for spotting things is just who you deliver a mail to. It's different per ESP in the group because they deliver to different destinations. In particular, the ones highlighted, they don't really appear in the others. Certainly may do lower down, but not at the volume there are. So we can see trends now in delivery data to specific regions, and if there's a message or settings that could apply somewhere, we can roll that out everywhere. So we don't need to rediscover the same thing. Current challenges, lovely domain setup stuff with clients, especially with Yahoo Google and DMARC alignment and stuff. Customers wanting to warm up too quickly. Customers' data quality, always an issue. Customers wanting to send old data and re-engage. This was a recent question, how someone was trying to come up with a re-engagement plan for sending to contacts that hadn't engaged over like a 10-year timeline. And we were like, that's insane. We were like, no, you really should only be engaging with people who have actually done something within the last couple of months, basically. Not trying to get people who hadn't done anything years ago, Customers triggering things, and then obviously country-specific stuff. Real quick shout out to Steve and Laura for the About My email here. It's a really useful tool at the moment as well for checking your Yahoo Google stuff. If you don't know about my email, then go and check it out. Some industry resources of what to follow. We follow Morg, Email Geeks, MailOp, Word to the Wise, hi again. Only Influencers, Spam Resource, Abusix, not sure if anyone here from there, but hi again. Mailbox Providers, of course, MTAs, and wonderful events like this, the Deliverability Summit. So why Postmastery? Now, these three sites are lifted from their website. Now, we use Postmastery for the tooling. We use them for the consultancy for the migration. We also have used them for weekly calls, checking our data with us, giving us some advice. Thank you, Yves and Saeed, hey, with those, because we basically get some insight there for spotting, things in the data that we might basically miss. And yeah, the tooling is amazing. The people are amazing. I think the company's great, which is probably why I'm standing up here. Basically the same thing, it's just their website. There you go. Last three slides end it. I have no idea if I was over or under my time, but that is it, unless you have questions.
Hi, I have a question about the warm-up process, because if I understood correctly, you're starting with the most important and big providers like Gmail, Yahoo, and Microsoft probably, right? And then there were addresses that use Microsoft 365. And how do you know that those addresses, because I assume they're company addresses mostly?
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
So the reason we know is because we've used the Postmastery tooling, and we can get the reporting from it on a provider level. Now, you could also see this just from the MTA log data, from feeding it to things like Elastic and Kibana and stuff like that. You can look at the MTA that answers for a domain and see that is an Outlook domain.
Yeah.
So we use the tooling. Sorry.
Okay, so your client doesn't provide this information, it is provided by Postmastery, that they're using the Mimecast or M365 or something.
Yeah.
And based on that, you know that they're using it and that you're conducting a warm-up. And I know that there's this one specific error, the deferral error you can get from M365. It's, I don't remember the code, sorry, but something like 471. Does the warm-up prevent it from happening?
It doesn't necessarily prevent it, but it greatly assists it. So when we do these warm-ups, we're warming up every domain almost at the same time. So the big, as well as the Outlook 365, as well as the ones below it, all at the same time, all at their own individual rates. Particularly for Outlook, when you Office 365, when you begin sending to them, you need to keep it at an incredibly low number and just not increase for. I've seen an experience of it being for 2 weeks. You just get heavy deferrals on a really, really low number. That's just brand new IPs that can happen for. And that can after they have seen consistent sort of low volume but okay behavior, they then can lift that, and then you can start increasing the volumes. But yeah, because by standard MTAs they can group mailings into queues and create a warm-up queue for, say, Office 365 or whoever it's relevant for. You can then control that per queue and keep the volume really, really low, and you just only increase as you need to.
Okay, and do you also have clients that send transactional emails only?
Yep.
And how do you handle warm-up then? Like, if they don't send consistently, but maybe, I don't know, once a month because they're invoices or something?
The definition of transaction can be air quoted as transactional. Now, we have previously FlowMailer, now SendPro, I can never, the names do my head in. They are a transactional-only ESP that are focused on API calls to us to create the email flow to go out. They do not need, not saying it's not applicable completely as like setting stone or whatever. They don't advise customers on warm-up because the specialization for FlowMailer is highly targeted, legit transactional, and it's delivered instantly from the API calls. Yeah.
You have the customer challenges. In that, couple of things are customers' data quality and customers wanting to send old data. So, any insights or?
Well, we don't want spammers. No one does. We tell clients that they need to send to opted-in data, they need to send to engaged data, they need to send to recently engaged data, and all this kind of stuff. Now, not everyone always follows that. Sometimes people make mistakes, sometimes people are mistakes. But because we can see so much data, and it's basically not, everyone can sort of do this, because we can see so much data, especially in the group with 7 ESPs pretty much, we can tell if a client's got a bad quality list, because they get problems, and when they get problems, we then contact them and question them and either help them resolve what they're doing by mistake genuinely, or say goodbye. You shouldn't be doing this anymore, basically.
Okay. Or do you help them to clean up their data?
We don't provide cleanup services. There are third-party ones. In my non-Spotler personal opinion, if you need to clean your data, it's a bit like, why are you trying to email the data in the first place? You should know your data. But that's to say, we don't necessarily say to a client, no, you can't send us some data that we don't know what it is. We just say, you need to follow these rules, and if you don't follow the rules, then we'll find you and help you, or if you don't want the help, then why are you here? Re-engaging old data, that's just sometimes odd random questions that we need to advise on and say, no, don't do it like that.
Final question.
Sure. I just wanted your earlier slides. I thought, when it was describing the migration, it was going from more IPs to less, if I was reading that right.
Yeah.
What was the logic behind that? So, like, not staying at the same amount of IPs or increasing? What was the thinking?
Basically, they were just using too many IPs to do a thing. Some of here may have heard of Pure 360, looking at one of them from history. They just had a setup which used an amount of IPs which in our collective group view and my learned experience view, that was just too many for the task. They had too many pools, they had too many IPs split around, so we just narrowed it right down into 3 pools with a real focused amount of sending IPs in those pools. And of that 38, 20 of them are the dedicated in that example anyway. So it's, we really, really shortened it down. That's it.
Can we have a huge round of applause, please, for Daniel. Thank you so much.